I got REO Speedwagon. Not heard it from a friend, but I can't fight this feeling. Stuck in my head. I was doing, Steven's working on a little project, little song project. He's like, Joe, do these two songs, but just beatbox them. Do a beatbox beat to them. And send me just your raw beatbox. I'm like, all right. And as I'm doing the two songs, I look over to the right. Oh, there's REO Speedwagon, even though the song wasn't REO Speedwagon. There's two songs. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And that was actually, I think that was my wife and I's wedding song. But now it's stuck in my head. Anyways, Zero Hedge. This is interesting. You know, again, I love statistics and charts and things that just make sense when you look back and say, yeah, there seems to be a pattern. Because why? It tells you what the next thing might be. You know, what to expect. Of course, in this upside down world, nothing seems like it's supposed to go the way it's supposed to. What does full employment mean? Spoiler alert, recession dead ahead. Authored by Chris Hamilton via Economica blog, posted by Zero Hedge, one of my favorite sites. Math is generally not a bullshitter. It can be twisted and tortured by statistics and convoluted by formulas, but in general simple math, it is about as honest as one can get. So in late 2017, when the Bureau of Labor Statistics suggested that employment would grow by 11.5 million over the next decade, 2016 to 2026, I thought I'd do the math to see for myself, to see if this was possible. I recently wrote an article why further growth in U.S. employment was mathematically unlikely, which he links to, and why economic growth under Trump would be nothing but illusionary here. But it took me a while to get around to specifically refuting the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But in short, once again, math says there's not a chance in hell the BLS is right. But why? For comparison's sake, let's go back to the 1990 through 99 period and simply count population growth by age segment plus the participation rate of each age segment found on the BLS website, where he links to again. In truth, I hold the participation rates constant as per 2016, but which slightly understates previous workforce growth. We see that the 15-plus-year-old U.S. population grew, in case you want to see this a little bit here, grew by 15-plus-year-old U.S. population grew by 22.1 million, and multiplying each age segment by their participation rates, the potential workflow grew by 13.6 million, as you can see there. Matter of fact, I think I need to put it back up because there's a few more. Here we go. Looking at the next decade, 2019 through 2028, the 15-plus-year-old population grew slightly less than the peak growth period above, about 900,000 fewer, but the distribution of that growth changes everything from a potential workforce standpoint. 17.6 million of the total 21.2 million will be 65-plus years old, with almost half of the total population growth among the 75-plus-year-olds, a group that at present has an 8.4% participation rate compared to the 81.3% participation rate of 25 to 54-year-olds, or 71% among the broad 15 to 64-year-old cadre. The Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that 75 plus year old participation rate, so 75-year-old plus participation rate will edge up to 10.8% by 2026. Think about that. But the like percentage increases among the 65 to 74-year-olds are simply a potential of a couple 100,000 difference over a decade, a mere rounding error, okay? And scroll down a little bit. Again, maybe I should just leave that screen up for you to see a couple of charts. Below, annual 15-plus-year-old population growth broken down by age segments, 1951 through 2028. Peak total growth double peaked in 1975 at 2.9 million annually, and again in 1999. As of 2018, the like population growth is 2.1 million. But as the boxes below show the totals detail, the groupings doing all the growing has radically changed. So in other words, get ready for unexpectedly, and I'm noticing my background is a little funky, and I think it's because of my doors open. And I've got the RV light, sunlight shining off there through the screen door, which is open, into my face, so you got this little slight difference in my background. Not to worry about it though. Taking the above chart, but based on current participation rates below, this is the annual growth in the potential workforce, and the impact is impressive. The demographic-driven deceleration in the quantity of potential employees since 1999 should be pretty obvious. And the growth in employees represents the growth in consumers for cars, homes, everything, etc. No more growth in employees, no more growth in economic activity. So when I show that we are essentially at peak employment to population ratios for the 25 to 54-year-old and 55 to 64-year-old cohorts, and structural changes likely meaning that 15 to 24-year-olds likely meaning the 15 to 24-year-olds are at or near peak employment as well, then the growth of employment, that is the growth of consumption, is essentially done. Probably time to consider what happens next. For those curious how global in nature this is, global economy on precipice of secular decline, or secular, maybe might be a better way to say that, decline, detailed via shifting population, demographics, income, and energy. Click here. I think I'm going to click there and continue. This is very interesting. These are some stats. You can't argue. Again, it's just even the simple math part of it. Forget the rounding errors, so to speak. We got us a problem. Global economy on precipice of secular decline, or secular decline, detailed via shifting population, demographics, income, and energy consumption. Many look at global population growth as a given to greater consumption. And looking at the chart below, which I didn't need to see it, of total global population set to hit 7.8 billion by the year 2020, one might be forgiven for this viewpoint. However, the reality, when one looks into the numbers, is that growth in global consumption that was the guy that knows the his uncle or wife's uncle knows the Laguna brothers, Oak Island, the Craig Tester guy. He needs a little crypto help. I was waiting. Oh, did he get a reply from? Anyways, it wasn't treasure news. He needs a little crypto help. So anyways, in looking at the chart below of total global population set to hit 7.8 billion by 2020, one might be forgiven for this viewpoint. However, the reality, when one looks into the numbers, is that growth in global consumption has ended. As I recently detailed, investing for the long run, you may want to consider this. Another link he puts up. Today's article explains why this population growth will no longer equate to economic or consumptive growth. It's, you know what? It's stuff like this. It's data like this that really paints the picture, right? It tells you the story. And while the government may know this and have the data right in front of them, they don't dare come out and say, oh, listen, there's nothing the government can do. There's nothing the banking system can do. There's nothing the Federal Reserve can do. There's nothing any of us can do. This is a people problem, population problem, and we've hit some peak numbers that used to drive the economy, and they're not going to be driving the economy anymore. So again, the question is, what does government do? QE to infinity? We back to the gold standard, Jim Sinclair, right? QE to infinity backed by gold. as his newsletters usually say. Cryptos, again, we just had a new crypto guy lead a very important position in the Security and Exchange Commission. He's 36 years old, I think. I may even do a separate video about that. I think I'm going to. Just, some good crypto news. And this, but it's down again, Joe. Anyways, so today's article explains why this population growth will no longer equate to economic or consumptive growth. This is why I feel like if we can just hit a freaking home run a year or two from now, whatever it takes, end of the year, psychic stuff, time frame, crypto, enough for people to say, hey, I paid my house off and all this stuff. If you can get out of debt, none of this will matter. No matter how bad it gets, if you're out of debt, you will be able to survive. No house payment, no car payment, none of that. It can't get bad enough for you not to survive if you have no debt. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And that's why I really, really, really want these cryptos to hurry up and get to that spot where we're waiting for, so that we can cash out and not have to worry about crap like this coming over the next year or two. Global births and distribution by national income. The inexorable decline in fertility rates across the world, not just in the wealthier nations, is the central feature of a maturing world. The chart below shows the declining fertility rates. I'll put it up. Shows the declining fertility rates from high-income to low-income countries. More on this below. It is the leadership and electorates of the world that are immature and will not accept that a finite world cannot continue to financially and economically grow at a rate far in advance of its population and their incomes. The declining fertility rates, coupled with increased lifespans, have resulted in a significantly larger total population which is living decades longer, reducing essentially the same total number of children as 2 and 3 decades ago. Globally, births have stalled since peaking in the 1985 to 1990 period, only just returning to that previous high watermark in the 2010 to 2015 period, as the chart, which I'm not showing you, shows, showing the total births per 5-year periods. The estimates going forward are the UN medium and low variance, but reality is likely to be between those estimates, with total births significantly declining. Below the distribution and changing quantity of births per 5-year periods from 1950 to 2050 by high income, black line, whatever, all these different countries, whatever, and low income nations. Future estimates below are based on UN medium variant forecasts and almost surely overstate future births. Births among high-income nations peaked prior to 1965 and have been declining since. Births are down 20% since that peak, at approximately 65 million in the current 5-year period from 2015 to 2020. The UN medium variant estimates births will stabilize at this level, but given a shrinking childbearing population and continued declines in fertility rates, further declines are more likely. This is quite a long article, so I'm not going to keep going on this one. I'm going to link to the first one, of course, and you can follow the first one to the second one. I'm trying to see if there's this is a very long article. Very good data, very good charting. I mean, it's in your face. Conclusion, 1 paragraph. Of course, if per capita incomes reversed their current trajectories, this would change the math significantly. But when you have a declining base of consumption among those with all the means to do so, and growth among those with little or essentially no means, this is the most deflationary case possible. Rising wages in the face of declining demand and consumption seems unlikely. Growth has ended and decline will be the central feature for decades, if not centuries. How we decide to handle this new reality will determine the financial and economic systems. The issue the world will not face will be resource depletion, at least not in the short run. Instead, the world is faced with how to deal with the growing inequality among and within nations, resultant overcapacity, ongoing urbanization versus large-scale rural depopulation, and a general bankruptcy/reorganization of all the promises made that required perpetual growth to make them come true. Your pensions are done. Your promises the government and everybody gave you are finished. It may not be today, may not be next week, but it's coming, and in many places it's already here. You've seen the videos I've done on the pension system. Just about every single pension, quite possibly on the face of the earth, is underfunded, meaning they don't have the funding and haven't had it. Nor, in my opinion, will they get it. Unless some pension fund decides at some point, let's get into cryptos. It might be the only pension fund over the coming few years that does really well. But I don't think that's going to be an option for them to do. Too risky. We're not allowed to do it. Okay. Sorry about their luck. So anyways, it's stuff like this. Paints the picture. Here's the numbers. Black and white. Willy Wonka style. But if you can, before this stuff really hits, make a nice fortune, small fortune, something to get yourself either A, mostly out of debt, or B, completely out of debt, this will not affect you even kind of close as it affects every other debt slave in the world. So as they said, it's going to be to see if this growth can continue. What is the financial system and the government's going to do with these numbers that they can't do anything about? Welcome universal basic income. We've heard that term recently, haven't we? Universal basic income. I've done a few videos myself over the last couple of years. And that would be a solution. But then you have people who don't really work, earning their basic income, not contributing to society. And then you'll have people who do contribute to society, who also get universal basic income plus a living wage on top of it, income from a job. It'll be those people who work hard, try hard, live hard, buy hard, have all the toys, have the house, the this and that. Those will be those people. Everybody else, you'll basically be the welfare people, just enough to survive. Which begs the question, in my opinion here, does that mean those people live, giant ghettos? We all live in giant ghettos while the other people who decide to continue working and can really contributing to society get the better stuff in life? I mean, you'd think so. There are going to be people who are completely happy with just making ends meet, and that's it. And to be honest with you, living a simple lifestyle, and that's what they want, if that's how it goes, great. My problem, though, is I don't want to say, oh, that's, hey, look, all these people, you guys are living a minimalist lifestyle, good for you. But they're in the ghetto, crime, and everything else. But, other side of it, why would all the crime and everything else be there if everybody's getting a universal basic income and everybody can survive and everybody has at least a little bit of money to spend? I think it might cut down big time on crime. So, I don't know. It's just, we're entering some interesting times. Take care.